Hi, have you ever tried one of those text-to-image generation tools like dall-e? Well, the problem usually is that it gets you really quick up and running by editing a few words in there, but you don't always get the image that you want. And then often I sense frustration from people who say like, I don't exactly get what I intended to have generated. Now, how can I edit this? Well, you can fire up your favorite editor for editing your image, but that's not really how we want to do things. Today, I'm going to show you how you can do this with more advanced tools and some of the open tools like ComfyUI and using Stable Diffusion for more advanced editing of your images to express exactly how you want the image to look like. So bear with me and we'll continue our journey together. Now, I mentioned dall-e, there's a few others, Midjourney and Adobe, and they're all good tools, but that are what I consider a closed source tool. And it's hard to edit them if you are not getting the service or the thing that you want. So to the rescue, we use open source. Open source because we can add our own tooling. We can use this to enhance what we want to have as a community. And one of the cool tools is Stable Diffusion. It's been there already a long time and existed even before ChatGPT was there. It was really, one of the first kind of generative AI tools out there as a model. And it's really great. And some of the other models kind of claim they are open source, but you aren't open source until you understand what all the data goes in there. And it's one of the things you can do because you can look at the model, you can actually also see what went into the model for its training. So you get a better understanding of what was exactly used in there. Now, over the year and a half, 2 years that this existed, there's been an amazing progress. A person on the left, the detail on the right. That eye is just stunning. We can't really see the difference anymore, and the perfectness of the image is really astounding there. Now, how do you actually get good at this? And you will see many people who will try to sell you the perfect prompt. There's no magical thing in there. It is text that is the first step to getting it right. And instead of just using a simple prompt of the scenery, you can enhance your prompt a lot by using more specific context that the image generator needs. You can use the medium, the style, maybe you have a similar art sharing, the resolution. If you bump up the resolution you're asking for, maybe you get more realistic pictures, more perfect pictures, because photographers like to do this. Maybe you specify the type of photo camera, and that also enhances this, because the more you tend to word professional words, it will get you a more realistic image. But maybe you don't like that and you want other things. But the nutshell is you can specify a lot more than just what you want. It's also how you want this with a lot more detail in your prompt. And that's already the first step of getting an improvement. But I told you, we're going to go beyond the prompt at first. Now, complementary to a positive prompt that allows you to express the image, we also have a negative prompt. And this was extremely valuable in the beginning when the models were not that good yet. Maybe you did not want the eyes to be bad. Maybe you do not want 3 legs in your image. Like all those things you could specify in a negative prompt to make sure that there's already a little bit more of verification what should not go into the image. So positive prompt combined to a negative prompt will give you good results in there as well. Now, sometimes you do want the imperfections to have actually the perfect image. And I know it sounds contradictory, but like adding freckles, adding certain little details actually will improve the fact that it will become the image that you want. So specifying those things as well could have a big impact on the quality of the image that you have generated. Now, once people got really good at this prompting, positive and negative, people started to share the images that I have been generating. And there's a prompt engine like Lexica and Krea that allows you to find images and maybe go through the images and see what prompts were used to generate the images. It's a really great way to learn from others and understand how you can improve your prompting game there as well. Now, obviously, if people share stuff, maybe they try to sell you stuff. And these are maybe more specific prompts, maybe items that are really professionally positioned for you to buy. And obviously, you can buy the image as well if you like the image there to be used. Now, fun way to level up actually your prompting is, imagine at your company you want to get better, or maybe in your meetup or your social group, you want to get better at prompting. So what about putting two people and making it a battle? And you ask people to create the perfect image. Maybe specify what the image is supposed to do. Maybe you specify what the image should look like by another image, and you have them create and write the prompts together. But the best one wins. So you can cheer for both sides, but ultimately the audience decides what is the best prompt. Great way of putting people under stress, putting them out there, leveling up their prompt game. Good way to get better at this as well. Now, Stable Diffusion as a model is quite specific. The word diffusion means that it uses some of the noise to be added. So when images go into the model, we add a certain level of noise, and that level of noise that we add, we understand how that works. And then when we want to pull an image out of the model again, we specify the inverse noise to generate from noise the image again. So this kind of is a very low-key explanation of Stable Diffusion. There's a lot more detail to it, but I'll leave you to explore that later for yourself. And then when we hook up words with a specific set of noise, that's the way we can find similarities. When we do a question, we find a similar set of text. This text maps to noise, and this is how we pull the things out of the model with our prompt. Very, very basic explanation. Here we see the cat being generated in different iterations from noise adding. Now, similar images are related, and they live together in the same latent space. Here you can see how similar images lie together in that space. The space is often called the vector, or the coordinates are called the embeddings of that image as well. Now, people have been using the model, and the model itself is just a binary. So you need an interface to do this. One of the first ones was Stable Diffusion WebUI, and it's a great tool. It has whole more complex things. You can see all the tabs, all the nuts and bolts, all the things it generated, and you can run this on your laptop. And it was really powerful for people to use and express what they really want for the image they wanted to have generated. Now, one of the items is that it generates the prompt and the image. But sometimes you want to apply, or actually, if you're doing more professional uses, you want to do a sequence of those transformation, the changes on the image as well. And this led people to think about this as a workflow, much as DaVinci Resolve, who has like a workflow, nodes and editing. ComfyUI is the tool that allows you to express your changes or the creation of your images as a workflow. So here you see on the left the model being loaded. Next to it, you have the positive and negative prompt. The third block is specifying the steps that the model should use for the noise and the denoising, and ultimately the image being generated. Now, here you see the speed of the rendering of that image, and you see it becoming more clear and crisper as the iterations go by. This is the speed being run on an M1 MacBook Pro. Gives you an idea, but still powerful that you can run these things on your own laptop if you wanted to. Now, why stop at prompts? And this is where it becomes interesting, because I told you can go really beyond prompts. Positive, negative prompt, but what about we add an image to this? Maybe we have a rough sketch, a rough idea on what we want. In this case, a girl standing straight, and we also provide this next to or two prompts, positive, negative, and use that to generate the images. This is called image to image combined with the text prompting, and allows you to be more specific how you want this. The fact that the eyes are similar, that it has wings, that the dress is like that, a lot more powerful than just specifying this in a prompt, because that could go all directions, all parts of the image as well. Now, if you want to already have an image and you want to edit the image, you can specify the area that you want to have filled in. Maybe that allows you to add a cat to the picture exactly where you want it. This is Inpainting. It's a powerful way of modifying an existing image that you already have and changing pieces of that as well. Now, we can go one step further, and why did we manually blur that stuff? We can use a helper model like segment anything in our workflow, and we specify the piece that we want to have selected with a prompt. In this case, we select use the face, and then it creates a mask for that face, and then we can say apply or do an inpainting on that area of the image. Really powerful way of even automating more and selection criteria of the pieces that you want to have edited. Now, sometimes you only have part of the image, but you want to extend the image. You want to grow the image, and that is a concept that is called outpainting. Maybe just have the lower body. You want to generate a full body. This is called outpainting an image. Now, what about the next step? If you have a person in your image, you want to control how that person is standing. And this is a model like Openpose that you give it an image of a person standing, or you make a sketch how the person is standing, and you add that to your workflow. And it controls more of the structure, how that person should be standing. And you can combine this again with your positive and your negative prompts and an image that you've drawn, and now you have even more control on your image that you want to have generating. In this case, a girl standing next to the house in a specific pose, and you can describe the scenery there as well. Really powerful expressiveness beyond a prompt there. Now, we can have the position and the structure, but we can also control the depth with that. In this case, how does a shark, what is the kind of the 3D depth of the shark going into the image? So we can transfer certain depth metrics or qualities from one image to the other by specifying a depth map there as well. Something you cannot easily express with just text and prompts. Now, how do you get those images? How do we get those poses in there? Well, there's websites who have specific poses that you can reuse, or you can edit this in one of the tools like Openpose, where you edit how that person is standing and brings that up for the Openpose, and that allows you to bring structure in your images. It's like a 3D editor, but it allows you to make sure that you're not doing weird things with the elbows or like joints out of place. A very interesting way of specifying the pose that you want to have the person standing. Now, I've shown you how you can do more structure, and people have been using this to create like creative structures. Look at the image of the right, on the left. It shows you a bunch of people walking down the street. That's nice, and we could have put the poses in there. But now squint your eyes and look at the image and make sure that you see the hidden message. Well, did you get it? It shows obey. So I put the structure in there by making the words look like obey, and that made the people kind of change their position in a way that ultimately it shows obey. And you can do similar things as the images on the right, where you actually specify the structure that you want that needs to be consistent for a QR code. So this, again, a powerful way of expressing exactly how you want things with the prompts and the images that you want. Now, that's all good. And that gives you an overview of the full image. And we show you bits and pieces you can edit, but you can take this up to the next level. What about composing an image, as a whole? You select areas that you want certain things to be. Like you want the tree to be there, you want the clouds at a certain other location, you want the house like this, and you want the person to be at another location in the image. And this allows you to have multi-prompting for multi-areas, and is like you would compose a scenery that exactly expresses what you want. Very powerful to actually make sure that only bits and pieces have certain parts of the prompt, instead of you having to describe this generically in one single prompt. Now, we got all the prompting, we got the positioning, we got the depth, but sometimes you want a specific style, or you want a specific item. Maybe you like certain cats, maybe you like Pokemon. So what can we do? Now, we can improve the model. We can fine-tune the model with our own set of images. Maybe 20 or 30 is something that is enough. And you can use one of the tools like Dream Boost to actually train your model to a specific generating a style of the images. Now, it's a bit tedious because for each of the images, you have to start adding tags, descriptions, so it has a known similarity when you kind of express your prompt, what it needs to generate out of that. But still, again, it's not that complex as you think, and a couple of images can get you a long way in there. Now, you can have a helper, of course, because I'm all about automating this stuff. You can have a helper and you provide it images, and you ask a vision model like Lava to generate you the descriptions, maybe a set of tags that you can use for your Dream Boost training. So next level automation of your tasks. Keep thinking about that part. Now, once you have that model fine-tuned model is obviously like a patch, like a change, and it is called a Lora. And here you can have a site like CivicAI. You can search for a variety of different styles and models. In this case, there's a Roman model. And one of the nice parts is that you can specify a keyword. And if you put that keyword or set of keywords in your prompt, it will trigger a certain style. So you can start mixing these. Maybe you like Romans, but they need to be covered in moss, and they had to look like an anime character. You can combine different styles there as well. But you trigger those with your keywords, and those are fine-tuned models. Have a look at this website. It has a lot of community models, really powerful for you to get started. Now, you can use those styling either for the Romans, but you can also train this on specific persons. In this case, it has like a training of very pictures of that person, and it learns, and when you specify I need a man, it will use that kind of information and will show you the images of that person. A very powerful way to do your personal branding, personality. Obviously, a lot of people do this for celebrity, but you can do this for your style as well. Now, a small side note, that kind of training on images is also something you can use to generate a style of UX. And here you show different styles that you can generate, but I'll leave that to the reader to explore more on that. Now, another reason to change a model or fine-tune a model is maybe the existing model is very much for a certain culture, and you want to override this when you put an old man. What culture does it do? Is it more Western? Is it Asian? And that's something you can also train the models on a specific variation of a cultural thing. Now, we got a style, trained at lots of work, but we can even get this more simple. We can use something like IP adapter. Think of this as a single image LoRa. So instead of training and fine-tuning the model, we can just provide it with one image. That is pretty cool because it saves us a lot of time, and it also allows you to have like a very fast iteration loop on the style that you want to apply. Now, similar to your area, you can apply certain styles, certain IP adapters, so certain parts of your image there as well. Really powerful for combining, eclectic style combinations if you wanted to. Now, when things get generated, it's not always perfect. Maybe the eyes are not that detailed. Maybe there's strange things happening at the hands. And we use detailers for that to correct those. Think of them as helper models that do a second pass of the image that was generated on specific parts. So I showed you the segment anything that allows you to kind of mask and find an area in the image based on a prompt. And this is similar. They detect eyes, hands, similar items automatically, and then they rerun the generation like an Inpaint of that image as well. And that allows you to have a better and cleaner image, a more detailed and more perfect image. Now, details matter, especially in product photography. In this case, there is a spout that needs to be perfect. It can go all directions. It cannot be very strange. It needs to be perfect. So people are using that for that as well. Now, when you create products or other things that require for you to put text on there, that has been a challenge because you get this kind of blurry glyphs on your image, and you have to override those somehow. But now there is a helper model like any text, and much like a detailer, it could take the text or the position and generate the perfect text and the style there as well. So there's no excuse anymore why those images have strange text on there. Now that we got all this expressiveness and we can create the perfect image, think about the workflow. You save some changes, you save your prompt, you save your new image, and then you want to have this rendered into a new one. So think of it, in this case, is that you go to your favorite editor and it just renders over and over again what you want. This is really powerful. And when you take this into the extreme, you can take your video camera and have it watch, for example, at you. You say, I need to be a young woman, I need to be an old man with a beard or not. So you see this ultimate feedback loop is just getting faster and faster for you to be creative in there. Now, this was all for generating images. Let's take it to the next level. Let's create a video. And one of the first ones was Google to actually describe this thing. You create a prompt and it creates like a few seconds video out of that. That is really powerful, of course, as well, but it's closed source. Similar to the Facebook one, who went a little bit further. They specify this almost like a story. First do this thing in the video, then do the next item, and it becomes like a longer video there as well. Still closed source. And then we found like Sora being the perfect photorealistic ultimate generation. But again, it lacked how do we actually direct what we want in those videos. They might be perfect, but they might not be what we want. So open source to the rescue. Now, Stable Diffusion already had for a while a stable video diffusion model, and that was the first kind of open video model. And it was allowed to generate a few seconds of text, similar. So you give it an image, like on the left, and it generates from the image a small video out of that. So it animates an image to video. That's powerful, but maybe not exactly what we want. Now, AnimateDiff to the rescue. So instead of focusing on a video model, people thought like, hey, we have these kind of improved image models, and a video is just a sequence of images, right? So we can use a similar technique to do this. We load the AnimateDiff model there as well, and then we specify a prompt, and we specify the motion that we want to happen in a certain prompt. Again, this gives us a few seconds video, still powerful, something you can run today on your laptop without any problems. Now, told you we have all the tool sets. So what about we can combine this now with the position and a person walking? This is a sequence of images, a sequence of poses that we can now use to animate the perfect image of that girl walking. So combining a lot of the techniques, specifying what you really want is really powerful to create exact the video that you need in there. Now, a short point of video, we can put that in sequence as well. AnimateDiff allows a technique called prompt traveling, where we say on frame 0, this is the item and the motion that should be doing. On frame 15, we have the next thing. So we can create like a sequence very similar to the Facebook thing of creating a story for a video there as well. Now, this is really powerful and can create these longer videos, but we can go even further, right? What about zooming in, zooming out? Those are things that do not describe the motion of the character, but describe the motion of the camera. And very similar to the Loras for a specific style, we can also have Loras for these different camera actions. And by specifying zoom in, zoom out in pieces of your prompt, and in your prompt traveling, you can have the camera move certain parts of the image there as well. So we're getting close to a movie director, right? And if you're going to go up, we want to zoom in the camera. We can create all these kind of like cool things that will require like a crane and very complex things in reality. But we're now able to specify this with just a few prompts of motion there as well. Now, I've shown you how we can generate the image, generate the video, but maybe the subject is not positioned the way we like this. And Stable Diffusion now has a concept called Stable Zero, or a model Stable Zero, that allows you to change items and subjects in your image, in your video, in 3D. Right? We tell the statue to rotate itself, to change the azimuth of its head, and we can do a perfect positioning of those pieces as well. We're getting close to a lot of powerful editing. And then to put the cherry on top, we can change the lighting using some prompts. We can do very pointed, in this case, like a spotlight of an area that we've selected with maybe one of the segment editing models, and we can have the perfect picture, the perfect video in there. We're not quite there yet that we're 3D editing a 2D picture, but things are in motion, research is there, and maybe soon we'll be able to do this editing by hand with all the tools together with our workflows to specify the perfect thing there. Now, when we got video, obvious thing is to add audio, right? So use a prompt to generate maybe a beat, a tune to do this. And then you can add the beat to the audio, to the animation. And, we have so much expressiveness that we did not have before on creating these beautiful animations, beautiful motions that we wanted to. And now with a beat of audio as well, just using prompts, a workflow, and a generation there as well. And then obviously you can submit your movie to a film festival. We're going to see crazy things that we were never able to do in the past. Really powerful and cool stuff there as well. Now, ComfyUI, I've shown you so many different things already. Lots of it is dealt with by plugins and maybe specific models. Use one of those admin tools to manage all that stuff instead of you having to install those items manually. This is really powerful. This is the core of a community thing. Everybody can bring and write their own plugin. So if you want to get started, there's very good helper and tutorials to do that as well. If you know Python, you'll be up and running in a couple of hours to bring in your own logic there as well. Mentioned before, your laptop might be good for some images, but maybe if your workflow gets more advanced, you need some hosting, and GPUs are hard to get. So use one of those ComfyUI specific clouds, support them, because they also support the community in giving back as well. Now, I've shown you that people started selling the prompts and sharing their prompts, but you can do now the same thing with your workflow. And people reuse their workflow. Maybe you have a specific item, stylizing, creating a dancing queen out of this. So you have your TikTok workflow on there to create the perfect video there. And people have been sharing those as well. And one of the nice things of ComfyUI is that the content that it generates, the workflow gets saved in there. So when you have the image, when you have the video, you open that in ComfyUI and you would see the workflow that was used to generate this. Really powerful tool for sharing and learning from each other there as well. Now, ComfyUI is not the only tool, and I talked to you about like other editing tools and video tools. For example, in this case, you might integrate this with your Photoshop, your existing toolkit from Adobe, because Photoshop can run as a server and they can talk to each other. So maybe you run your workflow, the image automatically gets uploaded and synced with your Photoshop. You do some editing in Photoshop, that gets back to your workflow. So you see, really powerful, and it doesn't have to be standalone on a ComfyUI only tooling set. Let's take this to the next step. Maybe, I told you can use prompting, positive and negative prompting, but what about using an LLM to generate the perfect prompt? It maybe have learned from lots and lots of different prompts to how you want that image to be built. So this is thinking about like, what's the next thing we can automate in this whole workflow for me editing and expressing the perfect picture. Now, all this goodness, you can use this in ComfyUI, but maybe some of your users are not that tech savvy or then don't have the GPU or all that stuff happening. And you want to save this almost like a web app, and you want them to just use it. You say, upload a picture, it does the whole workflow, photo retouching, and here's the result. You abstract the whole workflow away as a single app. Really powerful for sharing this with end users just on the workflow that you want them to use. Now, if you're more into coding, obviously you can export your workflow also to Python code, and then you can add your own logic, your own quirky things that you want it to be, maybe hook it up with some real-time data that you want to have it generated. So you see the reusability of that workflow is really powerful in the open source. And then adding this maybe as a tool for your favorite orchestration tool like Langchain or others. You have a specific workflow that does a specific transformation to an image or a generation to a video, and then you explain that to your middleware that this is what the tool does, this is the description, and then this is what I need from inputs, and then it allows you to run these as a tool when a user specifies that into their prompt. Now, let's take this even more to the next level. What do we still do manually? Well, we look at the image and we see whether that is good or not. Now, there's vision models, so why not just ask a vision model what they think about the image? This is an example of an art analyzer. It looks at art and it generates the critics, whether it was unique, what the composition was, and so on. So how do we take this to the next level? Is maybe we have a workflow that not just generates one image, but it generates 10 images. And then we ask a helper model like Aesthetic scoring to tell us what is the best image that was generated. And it picks the best. Similar to a re-ranker in RAG, maybe this is the way how we can get even better images without us having to judge what the best image was. Now, we're getting close to agents. What about we have an expert on camera work, an expert on artwork, maybe a movie director, a movie critic who looks at the story, and so on. So This is getting now weird, and the whole workflow that we think we always need to be in the loop can be a lot automated. And it's getting really exciting to see what the next steps are with this kind of work. Now, I hope I've shown you that this is an amazing ecosystem. It was only allowed to expand because the tooling was open source and others were able to build plugins in the community, expand, learn from each other, whether that was the prompt, workflow, the plugin, and how to run that stuff. So really powerful. So big kudos to all the different tooling and the writers of those plugins and the fact that they are sharing this. And I think the future is open source. And for me, this is a great example of that, showing that. Now, I get a lot of inspiration, and kudos to several of these people on this slide. Please follow them, share your love to them, tell them that you saw them and learned amazing things from them. I keep doing this myself also on a daily basis, and it's really nice to see everybody working together to advance the field in this generation. Now, maybe you like from me to see or talk about your journey. You can find me on LinkedIn, or you can subscribe to this YouTube channel for more of this kind of content. I go in all directions, whether that's media, that's going to be your LLMs, that's DevOps, that's deep in the prompt, that's more on management side. So let me know what next content you would like and whether you enjoyed this content as well. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a lovely inspiration to build the next thing that will be amazing. Thank you.